remaining to me, I want to briefly summarize the basis for RDI, of what we know and we believe about autism that's led to this program. Now, researchers have learned that the primary obstacles for people with autism to achieve a good quality of life is not IQ points, it's not language, it's not getting greater language, it's not academic performance, it's not social skills or any other specific discrete skills. Those don't seem to be the obstacles, because many what we call high-functioning persons with autism already can do these things even without intervention. And how do we know this? Well, we know it because scientists have been studying persons, adults with autism who have good IQs, who have normal language, who achieve academically, who maintain a high social interest, and they have a superior ability to learn all types of social and non-social skills that they can apply in more static, we call static environments. Now, what the researchers have found is that even with all those abilities and skills, these high-functioning persons still have a very poor prognosis for achieving a good quality of life. The odds are really against them at this point. For example, over 75% are afflicted with severe psychiatric depression disorders, right? Depression, anxiety, and similar disorders. And their rates of suicide are up to 7 times that of their typically developing peers. And the vast majority of adults, these high-functioning adults with autism, are facing a life of extreme social isolation, poor ability to find employment, with unemployment rates of up to 85 to 90% for the high-functioning people, and real inability to live independently. Now, in trying to understand this mystery, trying to solve this mystery, scientists have had to look at autism in an entirely new way. And one thing the researchers have learned is that the major obstacles to a quality of life for these persons, these high-functioning persons with autism, is their inability to develop the mental tools that we need if we're going to function in what scientists refer to as complex dynamic environments, and what most of us think about as the real world. Okay, so let me share just a few of the challenges we face in our day-to-day lives in our modern culture. We're constantly being bombarded with information, not only amount of information, but multiple simultaneous streams of information that we have to integrate and package and process, even in a normal conversation. When we try to make decisions, we see that everything seems interconnected with everything else. So it feels impossible to understand the potential consequences of one option over another, or to figure out the best way to adapt when things don't work out the way we hoped. Not only that, but critical information, the information we need to make decisions to solve problems, is often very unclear, very fuzzy, and often only partly available. We have to devise solutions and outcomes and responses that are in sort of shades of gray, because the black and white thinking doesn't work in these situations. And we have to be prepared to manage unpredictable dramatic changes, where conditions can remain stable for a while and sort of fool us, and then abruptly a change can occur, sometimes in a very dramatic way. And we have to be able to rapidly recognize and adapt to that. So we use the term dynamic intelligence to refer to these types of mental tools, these abilities that we need if we're going to thrive in these complex dynamic environments, these real-world environments. Let me just share a few of the attributes. There are many attributes, but a few of the attributes of persons with dynamic intelligence. They're able to very rapidly shift their focus as needed between themselves and others, between their internal thoughts and feelings and external actions and environment, and between their past and their present and their potential future. They're wonderful shifters. They are people who know how to manage novel, surprising situations. They don't panic, and they expect to see them. fact, they thrive on novelty and surprise. They expect that despite their efforts, they're going to have to revise any initial goals they set or plans they make, often multiple times, as they obtain new information that they couldn't see previously, they couldn't obtain. They know how to construct previews. They know how to look into the future and create mental simulations that they preview and pre-enact to prepare themselves for future performance, for future challenges that may occur, problems, but also to emotionally prepare themselves for stresses. And they also cope with stressful situations by being able to recollect experiences where they have persevered in the past and overcome obstacles. They also know how to respond to feelings of uncertainty and confusion when they encounter a problem by taking a step back, getting a little distance, sometimes looking more globally at the bigger picture in order to find a productive way of viewing the problem. They know how to conduct mental dialogues. They engage in mental debates where they can look at the pros and cons of different points of view and different ways of thinking about their situation that they're in. And most importantly, they have a very powerful drive to seek out new opportunities for personal and relationship growth, and it persists throughout their lifetime. Now, if we reverse this short list, which you can do, you'll get a sense of some of the most significant and universal impairments for persons with autism. So given this, I wanted to understand how typically developing children develop dynamic intelligence and see whether learning this would help us better understand what's going on with children with autism. Well, in typical development, it's parents and grandparents and family members who have the job of fostering the development of dynamic intelligence. They accomplish this by forming what I refer to as a mind-guiding relationship with their child. It's a relationship that begins in infancy, but it requires both the parent and child, both the adult and the child, to actively contribute, to actively engage and participate in this relationship. It takes two to make it work. So, over the course of many years, once this relationship forms, the children, parents, and other family members, they spend thousands of hours together. And they're involved, whether they're involved in day-to-day tasks, or helping out a parent with a job, or being playful together, or engaging in conversations, or problem solving together, or making important decisions, or less important decisions. They're actually involved in this mind-guiding relationship. So while on the surface, these interactions may seem like they're about mutual enjoyment, or cleaning the house, or planning to shop for groceries, they have a second underlying purpose, and that's to provide challenging learning environments for the child's dynamic and self-growth. So if that's the case, I wonder, well, what happens to children with autism? Do they develop, do they have a mind-guiding relationship? Do they form a mind-guiding relationship with the parents? And what we've learned recently from research is that infants who go on to be diagnosed with autism are born with neural vulnerabilities. But these vulnerabilities are not the same for each child who's going to be diagnosed. They may be very different. But what's the same about them is they have the common impact, the same result. They prevent those future children with autism from contributing, from actively engaging and providing the necessary ingredients that their parents need to form a mind-guiding relationship with them. So despite the parents' ability and willingness and heroic efforts, the mind-guiding relationship doesn't form. And these children with autism then miss out on these essential opportunities for mental growth. Things are just taken for granted by their typically developing peers and parents. So anyway, once I gained an appreciation of the importance of this mind-guiding relationship, I wasn't surprised anymore that children with autism, or any child for that matter, would fail to develop dynamic intelligence if this relationship wasn't available to them. So anyway, the tragedy in our current autism community is that these amazing research breakthroughs are not being reflected in the treatments being offered to children and their families. There really is a disconnect between research and treatment that I've not seen in regards to any other medical condition. Almost all the children with autism are getting treatments like ABA or TEACH or DIR. Methods and principles are based on outdated, limited, and often incorrect understanding of autism. More importantly, these programs fail to provide a pathway for children to develop dynamic intelligence. In fact, there's an implicit assumption that they can't develop it, so they learn other skills instead. They don't provide a way for parents to learn how to form a mind-guiding relationship with a child who is not initially providing those essential ingredients. Well, anyway, we believe that it's time to stop viewing the universal impairments, the impairments that keep people with autism from having a quality of life. We need to stop seeing them as untreatable and somehow permanently attached from birth to their condition, because that's not true. It's time for us to recognize that we can provide opportunities for every child with autism to develop their dynamic intelligence. Well, I hope this short introduction helped you to understand and even motivate you to participate in this important mission, the mission of RDI. And again, we developed RDI to provide the means for parents to form a mind-guiding relationship with those children who, again, through no fault of anyone, were unable initially to provide the needed ingredients for a mind-guiding relationship. And we've had great success in that. And so what's happened is that RDI has enabled parents throughout the world to experience that they're making the essential difference in their child's lives. They're providing them the same mental growth opportunities that typically developing children take for granted. I really hope that you join us in this important endeavor. Thank you, and have a wonderful workshop.